After a long hiatus of Young Justice, it's finally come back.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Exactly, man. It's been a while, you know. I know you guys miss us. We miss you. And let us, start off with this part 2 of Young Justice because they gave us 3 episodes like they did the first time. And I feel like this arc, although we want to call this the Counter arc, let's be real. This is the
Atlantis Arc.
Atlantis arc, literally. We're going through a lot about Atlantis, and it kind of makes me more grateful that in the last arc we got more backstory of Atlantis, because it really makes this arc feel more cohesive, and it actually feels like it's like a cause and effect as opposed to just some random event.
Yeah.
So
What do you mean by Atlantis, like giving us stuff for Atlantis?
okay, let me clarify. I guess I'm talking about how in the previous, the Magic arc, we can say we had a lot of like backstory about, Vandal's son and how he's like, kind of one of the rulers.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's like we're kind of playing off of that with this story, which was something that I had a question of, like, how would they feel about this? But before we get more into the Atlantis part, let's go talk about our boy Calderon, because Calderon we have not. I really feel like ever since season 2, we haven't really known what was going on with Calderon. And then we got little things, but it was just kind of like, okay, he's just like the leader of the Justice League. Okay, he apparently has this new lover who's a male. It just seems like there was just so much random stuff. So I'm glad that we're kind of getting to know about it, see him, and
front and center.
Exactly. And I think I want to talk about an issue that they brought up, which is something that, one thing I do like about this season is how they're kind of cross-examining our characters and seeing how, like, even though what they're doing is right, there's still some issues that come in. And with Calderon, it seems like he has this issue of always being like, kind of like just doing the work, never taking a break for himself. Always like, he's doing one task, he's doing the next task. It's just kind of like this overachiever, overworker. And I'm glad that they're kind of acknowledging that and like kind of talking about what kind of emotional trauma he might be facing. So how do you feel about this whole take on that with Calderon?
I don't know. I feel like I'm on Calder's side. Like, yo, guys, if stop telling him he's overworking himself. Just help him. Like, just freaking help him. Like, it's also King Orin's fault too, right? Like, he's the one sending him out when he could send someone else out. So he's just doing his duty. He's cool. Calder is such a cool character. He's always been a cool character.
Yeah, I agree, but I do. I don't know. For me, I do think it's good to acknowledge this because it's like, for example, and I think there's one thing I liked about what Nightwing was saying to him, where it's like after Tula died, he just immediately just goes, okay, I'm gonna follow this mission to figure out my father, or like to, obviously the deep cover mission where he pretended to be working for Black Manta. And then after that, he just was already the leader, or he tried to lead the squad. So it's like, I do think it is important to have that like level of like, although it's good to always be like, I'm going to do in the next project, there's a lot of like I don't want to say like turmoil or whatever, like
inner turmoil.
Inner turmoil that comes with it. And I've always felt that even though I love that Calderon was always level-headed, there's times where I just feel like he should just speak himself up. Like the one time inside, I think it was in season 1, where they all were having problems with Calder being the leader because of the whole mole situation. And Calder's all like, enough! And I like that yell because it reminds you of Cyborg back in Teen Titans. And I'm just like, that's what I need from him, because sometimes it just seems like he's just kind of like, he's kind of gentle. And I'm just like, no, Calder, you need to like stand up. So I feel like
you're like saying exactly what his dad said. You're like, you'd be more ruthless, and then we got one of the best moments from season 2 where he smacked his dad, and then and he's like, I believe that was ruthless, father.
Yeah, that's what I need.
He's got it. He's got it in him. He's just doing his duty. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see him. I feel like they're foreshadowing like basically him burning out somehow.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't happen. I hope he can pull it through. But yeah, dude, I'm just happy to see him in action again. That's all.
That's true. It's good to see him in action and see him taking the lead and whatnot. Going with Calder, I guess we can go back to Atlantis, because that's the big thing going on here. And with Atlantis, I thought it was very interesting with the politics, right? I mean, first I want to talk about the politics they introduced in the first, or at least on episode 14, which I thought was just kind of minor, especially because they started bringing up the whole global warming, and it came up. To me, it kind of came off as like they're trying to compare Atlantis to our Earth, which was kind of like, it's kind of whatever to me, because I was more interested in their own personal problems. But I think once we had the whole new king, or actually the old king, the prophecy of Aaron, I think that's where stuff became more interesting for me, and that's when this story started to become more of like, okay. And then the Ocean Master dilemma, which was at first, I was confused.
I was super confused. It's like, dude, didn't Shiva kill this guy?
Exactly. That's exactly how I felt. So I was questioning like, what's going on? But then, I'm glad that Aquaman figured out, okay, this ain't my brother. Something's up. And I'm glad they brought that up, because I was literally like, something's not right. But I'm glad they brought that up. So it made this story even to me more compelling. And I don't know what else is on your take about that, because that stuff, the King in this, made it really more interesting for me to watch.
I don't know. I don't know why people don't keep tabs on Vandal Savage. I feel like he's such a big villain, like that's done so many things already in the series. Throughout the series, it's like, why don't people keep tabs on him, and why don't people like try to discover more about him? Like, okay, this is just completely my guess. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe Arian is his son, or like related to Vandal in some way, and then like he is enacting, like literally Vandal Savage created this prophecy so that he can send Arian out at some point. And then, he staged it with Clarion, or not Clarion, but just like he thought the timing was great with the whole like Chaos Lords thing. I was like, okay, let's send Arian out at the same time. Let's also clone Ocean Master and send him out at the same time. It's all Vandal Savage, guys. Like, come on. Like, how come no one keeps tabs on him?
That's true. You think after, it's funny because with what happened with Artemis's arc, where they use the glamour spell, it's like it's funny how they're always bringing these callbacks, and you think with all these callbacks people would think, well, this has happened before. So yeah, you think that. I personally think Batman has tabs on him, but Batman's secret.
Sure, yeah. But I mean, I do find it interesting regardless. Like, it's not like I immediately jumped to that conclusion. But like, I literally just watched those 3 episodes right now, so it kind of you kind of can see it, like when you put the pieces together. But it's still entertaining, and it's still interesting the way they're telling the story and whatnot. Yeah.
One gripe I have to make, and I noticed this during the fight, or at least the part when Ocean Master goes inside Atlantis and he first appears and everyone sees him. The animation, and I know we talk about this every time we talk about season 4, but it was so noticeable with that fight. Like, it was just like, I was just like, God dang, this is just so cheesy, or this is so cheap. And then like, my biggest problem, even in episode 14, because I feel like episode 14s were the most animation, you can notice it a lot, is like, it looks like, have you ever seen the show Archer? Like, it's this like adult cartoon. Okay. It looks like oh my God, Archer. At moments, I'm just like, am I watching Young Justice or Ultra? So that kind of took it off for me, and it made me not really enjoy the fights as much, because it's like you can notice it more with the fights than you do with like the normal moments where they're being still.
Interesting. I actually didn't notice like too much with the fighting this time. I guess I wasn't like, it's at this point, it's like you don't expect too much, from like the animation in this season for Young Justice.
That's fair.
So for me, it's not the thing that I'm looking for. But I did notice like there were some spotty animations. Like, I don't know, the head nods felt super stiff. Like during the conference, I was like, what the heck?
Or like the part when they're like swimming, like you can literally tell like it's just like a body being still, and then like legs like slightly moving, like stuff like that. It's just, again, for me, it was more noticeable, especially the first episode 14, and then ironically I think episode 15 it was very smooth, but it was just very noticeable to me. So that's something I had to call out. But I think that's enough for Atlantis. The next thing I want to
you know what I want to bring up? I want to bring up the fact that we saw like Dr. Light and everything just come out of nowhere, and that's one of the things that happened, right? With the Chaos Lords. we only saw one of them, one of those events, which was still better than none. I mean, we technically saw like really, really quick montages of each one, but this one was like a full-on one, and it killed things right away. Jeez, this is probably way worse than we initially thought in terms of like the catastrophe that the Chaos Lords brought. But
oh yeah, exactly. That's exactly a point.
Yeah, that's a point. But also, like, you know, at the end of that episode, that the latest before these 3 episodes, Zatanna realized that Superboy is in the Phantom Zone, and I'm like, dude, why haven't you told anyone? Like, apparently, at least in the time frame or timeline that we're watching it in, it should have been about a month, right? Since then. So why has Zatanna not told anyone? I'm so confused.
My hunch is that, okay, because I think it's revealed that on episode 16, that's when we finally get to skip, because episode 14, 15, when the Aaron, the Keen, because Aaron was helping with the quote unquote laser thing.
It sounds like you're saying Aaron, like Aaron Yeager.
That's how
Arian.
Okay, fine, Arian. I'm gonna call him Aaron, but Arian. The point is that the whole catastrophe with him, like, that was before, or that was during the time where the Lords of Chaos.
Yeah. And then they said like about a month passed since then.
That's what happened in episode 16.
And then we're seeing stuff with, like, you know, the other characters like Beast Boy and whatnot. Like, if a month passed since that event, whereas Zatanna realized that Superboy's in the Phantom Zone, I need an explanation to why she's like not telling literally everyone, because that could fix so many issues.
that could. I'm assuming, because again, we've seen the quote unquote mid trailer, and they're like, supposedly people are they're all gonna like hold hands, whatever. So I'm assuming that's probably is happening, but just not happening yet. So we don't know. Like, I'm just gonna assume that it's gonna, like, it. You know, Young Justice is always moving from time to time, so I'm assuming that it's gonna be a thing where it's like, okay, during that month around June something, this is what was going on. So we'll see. I have things they'll clear up. And speaking about clearing things up, I want to bring up Superboy in the Phantom Zone, because that was another thing interesting about these episodes so far, seeing his story of the Phantom Zone as well as Phantom Girl, because we didn't get to see Phantom Girl for a while. And somebody in the comments actually speculated this when there was a scene, because if I remember correctly, there's like a scene with the credits where it just shows the other two and not Phantom Girl, and someone would speculate, oh, she's trying to get Superboy, and that person who made that comment, you got it right, because literally she tried, and you know, we see her there. So yeah, well, what do you think about that whole stuff, the Phantom Zone?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's the Phantom Zone exactly, but I found it interesting. I liked seeing Superboy in that state. I don't like. It felt like the old Superboy, like the younger version, you know? Yeah. Like when he was raging and everything, but I guess he's improved now, obviously. But it still felt like that nostalgia, that like, this is the Superboy I like watching, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. Especially that part when he was overcoming that monster and he realized, oh, it was his rage that was holding him back. And it was just like, okay, that's a very interesting thing. And I don't know, I always love those moments in TV shows where it's like a character's discovering what's going on, because I feel like I'm in a video game where it's like, okay, what's the rules? Okay, I must do this. So
yeah, honestly, I kind of wish he just like kept fighting that thing. I thought it was just a little cheesy, you know, like, all right, just gonna think about Megan, how much I love her, calm down, passes through, goes away. All right, fine, I guess. Or you could have beaten that thing to shit, because that's literally the only other thing in there that's like alive. So I don't know. It's a clue. Come on, man.
That's the thing. But the way he was getting beat up, it was kind of sad. I feel like my boy Superboy needs a break, because I'm like, he's in this zone where he doesn't know where he's going. It's just like he's just walking around trying to keep safe, and then all he has now is his imaginary friends of like, like McGann and Superman and all that stuff. So it's
as much as I wish that was the real Wally, it's just so sad.
Me too.
That's all they do. It's tease us with dead Wallies. That's what season like 3 and 4 is all about.
They're teasing us with dead Wallies, and then the next season, if it comes, it's going to be another tease of dead Wallies. So it's just, I think it's their own interpretation of Wally, right? Beast Boy had the imaginary thing. Artemis had the, what's it called? The McGann thing. Robin had the whatever
hallucination.
hallucinating thing, and now this is Connor. So everyone's gonna have their own Wally moment. So we're looking forward to that.
And then Wally has his Wally moment and finally comes back.
Yes, man. Hashtag Wally needs to come back, guys. But besides that, I think the next thing that was really interesting was the Legion's actually going to Superman. And I like that because that's always been the plot line, that the Legions will always meet Superman. So I'm interesting that they brought that up. But I am curious to see what about Superboy is that important to save, besides the fact that we love Superboy, you know? So I'm curious what the Superboy needed for in the future.
Yeah,
but,
interesting. And it's like 10 years from then, so it's like kind of a long time.
Yeah. And then it's also interesting that they said they need Superman to play a role that Superboy did. So I'm curious what scene or what timeline the scene they want Superman to fill.
Yeah, they gave us 2 hints, let me tell you. Superboy was like, "Oh, that's cheating. You can fly." So then Superman can fly, so like, shoot. He already can't think like Superboy.
Yeah, exactly.
And Superman's just way stronger too, so it's like, I can't imagine like.
Yeah.
That's tough, man.
Exactly. But one thing I'm like that they did, because one of my questions was like, how would Barry or Bart Allen feel? Sorry, not Barry. Bart Allen feel about this, and I'm glad they actually go to meet Bart Allen at the end of one episode. So I'm curious whether or not like timeline stuff, because it's like he's from the future. So how much another people who are also from the future, how is that gonna go and unravel itself? So I'm glad they brought that up, because I was really curious about that, because it's like, this guy's from the future. Why isn't he not talking about any of this? So,
well, I mean, I'm pretty sure, you know, he came from a different future technically.
That's
like,
true.
He came from the Reach future, and they already broke that. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's definitely something to consider. All right, next we have McGann trying to cheer Garfield. So this one was interesting to me because I didn't think Robot Man was alive. The way they framed it, I thought Robot Man was dead. So
I mean, they dropped all the knowledge immediately about the story.
That's
honestly
true.
his was the best. You know, his was the best. Like, yo, bro, like, came all the way back from the dead. It's just, you know, you saved me. That I felt that. You know,
definitely.
His was the best speech. And then the way Beast Boy shut him down. Oh my god.
Yeah,
wanted to slap him.
He said you wanted to slap Beast Boy. I mean, McGann brings up a good point that Beast Boy, it would seem that he's lost so many people, you know. It's like he lost his mom, he lost a lot of people in the Doom Patrol, he lost Brion, and then like now he's losing Connor. So it's like at this point he's been so much used to loss. So it's like, it is an interesting perspective to think about that with Beast Boy. And we never seen a Beast Boy this depressing before, which is funny. Like every adaptation of Beast Boy has always been more of like playful and whatnot, but this is the most dark Beast Boy we ever got in any DC thing that I've seen of. So it's a very interesting take. But yeah, I'm curious. Do you think he's gonna leave the Justice League? Because it seems like it might go that route.
I mean, I think if he would have, like in that scene. I feel like in terms of storytelling and timing, that would have been a good place to just be like, all right, then I'm out. And then it's like pretty shocking.
Yeah.
It'd be weird to just find out later that he just decided to leave. Like in terms of story beats, I feel like that wouldn't happen, but maybe I could be wrong. Yeah, the whole Beast Boy thing was interesting to say the least. I just felt frustrated by him. I can understand, or no, I can't really understand his perspective, but but I can at least like try to be in his shoes, think about it, and be like, okay, of course, when you're that emotionally driven, or like when that much trauma has happened in your life, you will be so distraught to the point where none of your decisions have any sort of logic to them. So I get it. I can't. I'm not gonna berate like his character just for making everyone who loves him feel like shit.
Yeah, exactly. I see where you're coming from there. And to me, what was so funny is that I think Wonder Girl, is that her name? The one who's okay. So if you don't. Funny thing, the voice actor of Wonder Girl is also the same voice actor of Katara. So every time I hear trying to cheer him up, I'm like, is that Katara talking to Beast Boy right now?
Oh, really? I actually didn't notice. She does she changes her voice enough to make her fit that character better.
Yeah, definitely. So that was one thing, and then obviously Robot Man was Cyborg, so it's like Cyborg, booyah. But besides that point, the last thing I want to bring up, and normally I wouldn't really bring this up, but I felt like it was necessary because I know where the direction was coming, was Halo trying to understand Islam, right? That her like religion, and I bring this up for two reasons. Reason number one that why I thought this is important was like, as someone who's like, Western, or at least, grew up in like a very Judo Christian kind of like view, it's cool to see like a more take on Islam that's not seen in a very dark way. So I'm glad they actually bring that up, and it's good that we have a character who it makes sense for her to ask these questions, right? It's not just some character being like, oh, I remember that back in the day, blah, 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 trying to give us backstories. It's like, yeah, I'm curious. How does this work? How does the system work and all that? And like the questions of, am I allowed to wear the jihad, and what's the rules behind that? So that's number one. And another thing is, I was, seeing that trailer, Halo's going to play an important role as well. So it's cool how they're kind of like bringing, like, I feel like they're bringing her up in a way that's like going to actually be important for the story, but at the same time they're also addressing this sort of issue that's also important to society. So that was my point on that. What's your take on the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate like the show diving into a culture that I myself don't really know too much about. So it's definitely something that's interesting to me. But personally, I don't necessarily like have too much investment in it. It's just something I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, but that's pretty much it. For me, there's not too much story value to it. Like they're not.
That's fair.
Doing it in a way that it's integrated with the story, which is totally fine. But yeah, for me, it's just something that was interesting. That's it.
Yeah. I think, and this is one of those times where it's like, I guess you could say the show being a little more on the preachy end, but I guess in my context, I think in this context for me, it works better just because like we're looking at a character who's like actually trying to figure out their identity, and then like in this case, to me it works because it's just like the context is just felt like it's a person exploring who they are as opposed to like revisiting their own traumas, which there's nothing wrong with it, but I guess the context makes sense. And then I think the reason why I attach it to a story significance was because I remember seeing the trailer that she does play a role, so it's like, even if it's not so big, it's like we're still there's definitely going to be a build up to what's going on here. So yeah, I mean if you have anything else, I think those were my main points of the whole episode so far.
Nope. I mean that I voiced my main thing about Zatanna not telling people. Like that's where I hate it when shows leave off like that and just like oh Connor's alive, and then like we had 3 episodes of like her not telling anyone about that revelation. I do not like when shows do that. I'm sorry. It's just something I wanted to voice.
Yeah. I mean, the first 2 episodes make sense because obviously it was before she realized, but then now episode 3, it's kind of like, yeah, that's a really good question. Like what happened there? Like what's going on? Like did it take her too long to bring up the people? Is she having a hard time with the magic? Like hopefully they give a good justification, but it is sort of like a, especially this show that jumps around too many times. It's just kind of like, okay, this makes no sense to me. So yeah, but other than that, I love these 3 episodes. I mean, the first episode was a little bit whatever to me, and I kind of didn't like it as much, but as the other 2 episodes went in, it got better for me. And I'm looking forward to the next episode. And let us know what your guys' opinion is in the comments. It's good to be back. And, let's cheers to this season, or lead this half of the season being better than the first one. So, yeah.
Peace.